Okay, so we're back with episode 3 of The Vampire Lestat, Toronto. And after watching this episode, all I could think of was that Lestat is truly not just broken spirited and also broken hearted, but in many ways still a broken child. And I feel as if Gabriella, I will go out of order a bit when I'm talking about this episode. I feel as if Gabriella, his mama, she's always a constant reminder as like a maternal figure, but always also in a way of to try to like as if she has the most claim over Lestat. Even early on in the episode, I feel as if she now that she knows about Louis, she does have a jealousy. And I read somewhere somebody made a comment. They were like, "Is Louis gonna be the Claudia to Lestat and Gabriella, like Claudia was for him and Lestat?" And I can most definitely see it because Gabriella, to me, she holds on to the fact that she knew him in his human life and that she's able to have this really sorted and been and shape shifted and just like morality bending relationship with her son that I think she feels as if it trumps everything. Like almost like she could just throw her pussy around in a sense. Because when they were having an interview and she went in the bathroom and was fucking his doppelganger, as loud as she was, to me it gave that she was trying to pull rank. Like, I'm still in charge. I can still have whatever effect that I have over you, and to also just, I think also to help Lestat in a way to alleviate some of the heaviness of the um, emotional setting of the interview, to try to make Daniel now uncomfortable. It's like she comes in and tries to pull this mommy shit, but it's very sadistic, but through like the lens of a girlfriend and a wife. We truly get the backstory of Lestat and Nicky's relationship, and it's very heartbreaking because Lestat, I think he really had real intentions with Nicky. I think even when he turned him, he wanted it to be not necessarily a pleasant experience, but he wanted to extend and prove to Nicky, I love you just as much as my mama. Because by then we see that Gabriella is already a vampire and she's already sticking herself in Lestat and Nicky's relationship. Now she does warn him that Nicky does not have the mental capacity for something like this. And we see that he doesn't. And they say that he's unstable even before he becomes a vampire. And I kind of get that a little bit, but not all the way. I kind of get with Nicky that he's a little bit more forthcoming because when him and Lestat first meet, Lestat still has that stuttering problem, and Nicky seems to have more confidence in their interactions, even a little bit more to let on that he is interested in Lestat. Like Lestat is romantically interested in Nicky, but I think because of his speech impediment, he doesn't want to. Like he's not confident enough to say it, and Nicky picks up on it. It's almost like I know you like me, and I like you too. And we find out that I would say Nicky and Lestat both kind of come from a not very wealthy background, but a well off enough background. I guess in today's time, maybe they would be considered middle class or something like that. But we see that Nicky is struggling with the influence that Gabriella has in their relationship. And he kind of wants Lestat to prove himself that I want you to give to me the very thing that you've given your mama to prove that you love me. But he also picks up on that Lestat has changed. Um, During the time that he's with Nicky, he is violently changed and transformed into a vampire, and he hasn't let Nicky know yet. And that kind of plays back into season 2 where Armand is like, "Oh, you haven't told him who you are." But Nicky, we see in from Lestat's perspective when he was with Nicky, Nicky was picking up on things changing. He was even picking up on his eye color, everything, and he was like, "Something is off about you, and you keep lying to me. You said your mama was dead or she was dying. Now her ass is back to life. Like, how is this shit happening?" And inserting Armand, I think it's just so funny to see how he told that retelling of him and Lestat in the theater and let him tell it. Lestat had, told him he loved him, led him on and everything. And come to find out, it was Lestat, Gabriella again, and him in the damn theater box. And it's like, Armand, you was always the third wheel. I don't know how you ever lied to yourself to make yourself, like, really convince yourself that you were more than what you ever were. Even Lestat was like, "I'm tired of your desperation." His mama sitting there, she's like, "Do you think you the only one who gets to feed on him? Like, bitch, that's mine, been mine, had it, toe tagged it, everything." And then we see Nicky is not grappling well with vampire life, because the scene that we see him like aggressively playing in season 2, that's added on in season 3, where he gets up and tells the audience, "Welcome to the theater of the vampires." Like, he literally outs them, and they kind of play it off up in the theater box. And Lestat is still trying to, like, he almost kind of like trying to bid Nicky more time, because his mama obviously she doesn't agree with Nicky. She don't like Nicky. Armand doesn't like Nicky because he sees him as some type of competition for Lestat. But Lestat, it's almost like now I think maybe he feels guilty for maybe stringing Nicky along, or maybe even bringing Nicky into this dynamic. So he feels as if, I have to protect him. And he's trying to bide his time with Armand and Gabriella wanting him to do something about him. And we see the whole scene of how it happened with him cutting his hands off. Like, he's delirious in this point, and he's in him and Lestat's room. Once again, Gabriella and Armand are there. And it's just, if these two motherfuckers could leave, maybe Lestat could think clearly. But it's almost as if that's what Gabriella and Armand wants. They want him to be so frazzled that he's easily controlled, or just he goes into these decisions very impulsively, and they're there to kind of just like chastise him and chide him about it. And Nicky is crying, he's delirious, and he's pretty much like, I guess in his way saying, he can't feel anything. This thing is destroying him, and we see him take a hatchet and cut off one of his hands. And he throws it into the fire. And he's like, "Lestat, help me cut off the other one." And we see that Lestat is just tortured in this moment emotionally. Like, it's like he has his mama and Armand in his head, and he's pleading with Nicky to not do this. Like, he looks so pitiful. And to see Lestat in such a vulnerable way, it almost kind of brings you back to him and Louis' fight, with seeing him so vulnerable with his lover, or with the man that he wants to be with, and he just has all these things that's keeping him from being with him, in a sense. And we find out that Armand, like Lestat said in season 2, had a big part in Nicky's death. So much so that he pushed Nicky into the fire. And I'm assuming he put like, I guess the fire poker, like, stuck it through his chest to make sure that he stayed there, and as he burned. So yes, I think Nicky was suicidal in that sense. Like, vampirism was too much for him. But once again, Armand was the one who was the aggressor and finished him off. And it's just like Armand and Gabriella are both there hovering over Lestat, almost like competing for both of them. But it's as if both of them know that they're so far removed in relationship status. Like, she's his mama, Lestat is, I mean, Armand is just, this little, I guess, a little floozy that he fucking on. you all's relationship status would never overlap, but yet they're competing as if it would. And it's just like, okay. The most, what was also extremely traumatic to see and watch was Lestat's transformation to becoming a vampire with Magnus. Magnus is fucking insane. Like, when we find out and we see how, what's the word, how delirious and this one-sided obsession with Lestat, like he's coming to his shows every night in the back, like just lingering for his autograph or whatever it may be. He is at a dinner table, like doing pleasantries and, like, kisses and like talking as if he's talking to him in real time, and it's just a picture of him. And then we see all the other bodies of all the other men that he tried to make that looks like Lestat, blonde hair, blue eyes, and they're like dangling from this suspension in the air. And it's like, this motherfucker is crazy. And then his teeth, oh my god. Like, I would be scared if that motherfucker bit me too. And we see that he literally pulls Lestat from his room, like Lestat said. But we learn that he was in bed with Nicky. Like, he literally pulled Lestat from being in bed with Nicky, brought him to this dungeon where he tortures him, beats him, and from my understanding, it looks as if he rapes Lestat as he, like, as part of this transformation. And then he's on top of him and he like opens his throat and you see the blood just gushing out onto Lestat. Like, this transformation is extremely traumatic. And I say that I believe that, he was sexually assaulted because at the same time, we see Louis reading the pages from Claudia's diary out loud to Bruce. Louis finds out, he catches up with Bruce in real time because, he's the leader of the coven in Detroit, Killer, who happens to be the muse from episode 1. I can't remember her name, but the girl from the concert that he had got high off of when he drunk her blood, when she was like, I'm getting married in a week. She was getting married to Bruce ass Killer. So Louis goes into the house, he kills all the vampires that are in there, and they have this dungeon where they have like humans, the food, just sitting there waiting to be drained. And Louis sets them free and everything, and Bruce comes down. He snaps Bruce's spine and, demobilizes him the same way that he did Claudia, making her powerless and she can't move. And he reads the letter. He reads her journal entry, which Claudia is gone. It almost feels like an overstep, but then you know why he did it. And then as he's reading this, talking about how Claudia was saying how it felt when he was violating her and the things that he would say, and even that there was moments where it's almost as if she's trying to appease with her attacker, hoping that she can buy some type of grace from him. And she's saying in moments throughout this entire ordeal, because it goes on for, I'm assuming, days at a time, that she has moments where he seems to be sweet and she wants to lean into that, but also at the same time, the way that he has violated her, she feels like nothing. She wants to be nothing. Like, she wants to feel nothing. She wants to numb herself. And we see that montage play over as Lestat is being assaulted, and we truly see how parallel Lestat and Claudia's experiences are. Like, she really is her father's child. She really is her maker's fledgling. And it's so unfortunate that Lestat couldn't have been as more open and vulnerable with Claudia, because I feel as if he was, she could have learned so much, but she also just could have saw herself in him. And I ain't gonna say that there would have been a reason she would be still alive, but I do think it would have done a lot for their relationship. And another thing is that I know I'm going out of order, but we find out this information about how he was turned and how Armand killed Nicky during the interview with him and Daniel. And Daniel keeps provoking him, asking him that he stutter. But how he gets Daniel while playing a trick on him is that he's telling Daniel this all telepathically. So when Daniel goes back, because he thinks he's got this all on camera, and then he goes back and Lestat is just frozen frame, and the crew was like, "Yeah, y'all was just sitting there looking at each other for like half an hour. We didn't know what the fuck was going on." And so Daniel is even mad. Like, I know this motherfucker did not just do this. Daniel is really pissed off at this point. Another thing that Lestat talks about, he says that Daniel will be a briefly lived vampire. And I wonder, is that to his own doing or is it because of his association with Armand? Um, I'm trying to remember everything from the episode. But after we learn about his turning, Lestat has this own like subdued version of it that we get in like this music video throughout the show. It was giving real Lana Del Rey, Taylor Swift, and it's almost as if he has to soften it for himself in order for him to believe it, because all of these muses that he keeps having come in and out of his mind, that's from Magnus to Nicky to even Louis. He's in the car driving and Magnus is coming to him, coming to him again, like in his mind, and just pretty much, pretty much just like fucking with him, like, you can't get away from me. You can't get away from your beginning. You can't get away from your start. It's going to pretty much haunt you. He crashes the car and he able to get away from it, just get his ass up and walk away. But we really see how tortured Lestat is, and he really truly has arrested development in a sense. Like, I don't think he's ever grown past the first time he was truly violated. And we see pretty much everyone around him. He was violated by Magnus. But even before that, he was violated by his father, then violated by his mama, violated by Magnus, and even violated by Armand in Armand's jealous pursuit of him to kill the one person that he truly, I think, at that point in his life had the most, um, I would say, the most genuine relationship, because everyone else abused a power dynamic in order to get what they wanted from him, including his mama. Later on in the episode, from this is my recollection, from what I remember, we see Louis in the coffee shop and we see him talking to the waitress. And when he said he saw Claudia, legit, it's Claudia, but this woman's name is Regina. And you could just see Louis is battling with this, and he has this longing, and he's looking at her, and he's like, I just have to accept that I can't bring her back. He killed Bruce, and as he killed Bruce, he lit her journal entries on fire and set them on top of his head, and that's how he burned. But even then, it's still not enough. It's not rectifying this hole and this void that he has. The same way that Claudia herself, in a sense, didn't truly rectify the void that he had when he lost Grace. One thing that I did point out, what I did catch, was when he was in the car and Lemuel called him, asking him, how did everything go? His screensaver is him and Lemuel. So it's like, do you have more feelings for this man than you wanted to let on? And because you were in the room with Lestat, you wanted to fuck with him, but you weren't confident enough to say that, yes, this is my companion? Because if y'all just fucking, why you got him as your screensaver? But I would say that's my overall recap of episode 3. It was brutal. It was brutal in a way to see Lestat where he came from, and pretty much how everyone around him has abused their authority and whatever vulnerability that he's had with him. And when you think about it, it's almost as if the most genuine relationship he's had has been with Louis. And I think more so we see now maybe why he picked Louis, because we can see that just like with Claudia, Louis and Lestat have a lot of parallels in their beginnings and being sons of, you know, powerful fathers at a sense, having to carry that load, not being validated in your personhood and having that being taken advantage. Whereas Lestat is through his family, and where with Louis, it's like an institutional thing with racism and, slavery and Jim Crow and all of that thing and all the things of the time that he was living in. I'll be back with the After Dark session because I want to read over that. Well, watch that one too. But that was my overall recap of episode 3, The Vampire Lestat Toledo.